Well, it looks like we are phasing out the penny here in the United States. We're going to get into that as well as our thoughts and some other topics, of course. This is Nuance. I'm Mike Scala, an attorney and an MC, and I'm joined by fellow hip hop artist Timid, also known as Jay Carter, the chair of BLM Tokyo, with a slightly different look this week.
Yeah, different location here. Just new perspective, I suppose.
Hmm.
So, and I guess that's what we'll be getting if they phase out the penny, because it's not as easy as it sounds, I suppose. So,
It's something
what do
that's
you think?
been talked about for a while, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's been talk for a long time, but it's just never been. I guess it's just never been done, or been not done, but
Yeah,
seriously, put in motion.
you're right. Well, now the US Treasury is talking about phasing out production of the penny, which, as many people know, actually costs more to produce and distribute than 1 cent, right? So you're really
Right.
losing money for every penny that you make.
Right, right. So it's like I think it's about three times the amount to produce one penny that it costs to produce than it is in value. So
Yeah. Well, according to CNN here, it says each penny costs 3.7 cents to produce and distribute. So it's almost four times as much.
yeah, yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, the nickel also costs more to produce as well.
Well, let's see. There's actually a whole chart here for those curious about that. We've got the
Right.
nickel.
So the nickel costs 13.8 cents to produce. So they lose more on each nickel.
Yeah. The dime, though, is under 10 cents, right? And so is the quarter under 25 cents.
Um, I don't know. Is it?
Yeah. Scroll down. We got these charts here. You see those little lines? This is on CNN Business.
Hold on a second. It's
We've got four graphs in this article. You can see the pennies
yes, there
above
we
the one
go.
cent line, right? The nickels under the is above the 5 cent line, but the dime
Yes.
and the quarter are under their line. So I guess good news for the dime and the quarter for now.
Right, you're safe.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
safe for the moment. I think there are it would be an adjustment to get rid of the penny because I mean we're just so used to it. Um and I guess, you know, there's the issue is when you get rid of it, prices have to change. They can't be down to the penny. They have to be in increments of 5 cents. And so that means either the
Right.
price is going to go up or go down, and most likely everything's going to round up to the nickel.
But don't forget with taxes, though, that's going to be hard to do. What you might end up seeing is rounding,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Either they have to give you more money back, or they're always asking you to donate, round to the nearest 5 cents, donate to this charity or whatever.
It's going to have to be round. Everything's going to have to be rounded up. And that also means like every business, every company, everything is going to have to adjust the way that they do their math
Mm,
to make sure it's on increments of five.
right, right. Although we may be just moving away from cash businesses in general, right? What if you just have businesses say, listen, we're not going to deal with paper currency and coins anymore. It's cards only, or iPay, whatever people use on their Apple devices.
I think this type of talk is or this type of subject, especially showing how much it costs more to make a penny and more to make a nickel than it does in value. If we start seeing that move up, like the dime starts costing more and all of that, then I think people will start moving in that ideology even more. And then that could also be, cause or reason to push crypto even more because the administration is trying to get um a crypto store as well. So
Well, the way crypto is currently done, it's so bad for the
it's
environment.
horrible.
Yeah,
Yeah, the way it is, it can never be daily currency. It's too complicated. It's too yeah, it's too many hoop.
convoluted.
I'd say what?
Convoluted is the word.
Yeah, there's too so it's never going to be daily currency in that way, although some countries have made it work. I think but Venezuela, it's a legal tender or it's maybe the standard tender now there.
That's crazy.
Um, but I don't like a cashless society.
Right. I was going to say that. And there are a lot of people also who are more old school in their thinking who only will pay in cash, right? They'll tell you cash is king,
Right.
and they don't trust currency that isn't cash based, right? Then there's also, I think, a discriminatory element, perhaps. Maybe not everyone has
Sure.
access to credit or banks to get debit cards and things like that. Some people have to use cash,
Sure. And then what happens if the electricity goes out?
right?
You
Computers
know,
crash.
I'm sorry?
Computers crash.
Computers crash. Absolutely. Glitches, hacks. I don't like having just a digital sort of economy or a currency. I like having the option.
Right.
I don't like that being the only thing. I think cash should remain king um always.
Yeah. You're right,
And I
though.
don't like the tracking part. I don't like
Right. But
just
that's also why some people want to pay cash, right?
yeah, get out of my pocket. Like it's really none of your business what I'm spending my money on. Um,
Well,
it's ridiculous,
you're right, though. Logistically, it is going to be a nightmare potentially, right? If you were to get rid of
essentially.
the penny, get rid of the nickel, let's say, right?
Right.
Yeah. How would you account for prices? I don't think it's really feasible to say everything can be a multiple of five, is it? I mean, like we said, taxes, unless all the stores are going to set their prices with taxes in account, like right, like predetermine their prices, knowing what the taxes are going to be.
Right.
They come out to a multiple of five every time. You might see some of that happening, but
Well, I think
how are you going to
I
guarantee?
wonder in Europe, I don't think they have a 1 euro coin, but all the prices are figured in with tax. So
Yeah,
maybe that's one way to do it.
maybe. I think it's easier to do it in Europe because tax rates are more uniform there, right? Where you
Are
know,
they though? Like you've got multiple countries.
no, you do, but even within the country, I don't think the taxes tend. I mean, I could be wrong. But my understanding is that the tax rates fluctuate a lot more in the U.S. because you have local taxes, state taxes,
Right.
federal taxes, right? And it just changes. You can, be traveling even within New York and pay different sales tax rates within a 25-minute radius. So that's an issue. But you're right. In other countries, like in Europe, when you go to buy something, the price that you pay after tax is what you see. You don't see the pre-tax, right? So when foreigners come to the US, they get confused by that, right? Because they think that the advertised price is what they have to pay. They don't realize there's a
Right.
tax added on top of that. And so
Right.
maybe that is one way of handling the situation, right? Like we said, figuring in the tax beforehand and then setting your pre-tax price such that the post-tax is going to come out to a multiple of five every time.
Right. Now, just because they're going to stop producing it doesn't mean that the penny's going away. So the penny's still going to be legal tender. Still going to be spendable and usable. They're just not going to be producing any new pennies.
Yeah.
So
Well, what is the average lifespan of a penny? Do we know?
the average lifespan, what do you
Yeah.
mean?
Well, like how long does it last in circulation before it's lost? Because a dollar doesn't last that long.
I think, I mean, you've picked up pennies that have like, I guess they do take them back into the mint.
Oh,
Um,
I'm just saying, once they stop making them, at a certain point, you'll see less and less of them, right? And then they'll go extinct, essentially.
well, they'll only go extinct if the Treasury takes them in and doesn't, like when they get paid or sent to the banks and they decide that they're not going to keep them in circulation.
If they stop producing them, it's only a matter of time. I'm saying it's not going to happen right away, but
Uh,
each year you'll see fewer and fewer pennies out there, right?
Why?
Because they get lost.
I don't think enough of them are going to get lost that they'll just be
Let's look this up.
out
Average
of
lifespan,
circulation.
average lifespan of a penny. How long does a penny tend to last?
Well,
25 to
before
30 years is what I'm seeing here.
in circulation. That's before they become too worn to use and are removed from circulation by the Federal Reserve. Okay.
Okay, so
But
they,
it's not uncommon for them to last even longer.
and I think that's an advantage of the coin, right? Because they last longer than a paper Dollar would, right? I don't think a dollar lasts nearly as long because it's paper. It gets destroyed a lot easier.
Well, it's yeah, probably. It's not strictly paper, but yeah,
Well, let's look this up. How long is a dollar bill in circulation?
it says about 50 years.
A dollar bill?
Yeah.
Really? Why did I hear it
Wait,
was
wait, hold
move
on.
up?
No. The US dollar coin is
The
about 50
coin.
years. The
Yeah.
bills about 6.6 years.
6.6 years. I was seeing that too. Okay. So more than I had
Yeah.
heard, but still significantly less than a coin, which makes sense, right? It gets wet, it gets destroyed a lot easier.
So what if instead of producing new pennies every year, since it costs almost 4 times the amount to produce it, what if they just produce new pennies like every 10 years to keep the supply fresh and moving? Because it's already going to be in circulation.
But isn't that the goal, though? If the goal is to phase out the penny, why are you trying to keep the supply fresh? I think they're trying to eventually have no penny.
Well, I'm saying that the goal is to do that because of the cost,
Mm.
but perhaps the cost can balance out if you're not printing every year. If
It's
it's one
still,
every 10 years,
right.
then maybe the cost basis makes a little bit more sense.
I don't know about that because I don't know how those numbers will work out, but is it
Right.
possible that it actually will cost more to produce if you're doing fewer of them per penny?
Well, you can do your regular run, you just wouldn't do it every
As
year.
much. Right. But
Right.
I'm just
So
saying
they're
when they
doing
put
it every year, so they're losing money every year on it versus
I
if you
see.
do it like every 10 or every
So what you're
20.
saying is you'll still be losing money, but you won't be losing as much because you're not doing it as much.
Right. So you do
Okay.
like, for example, let's say every year right now they produce, I don't know, 100 million pennies, right? And they do this every year, and so they're losing 4 times the value each time
Mhm.
every year that they do it. So instead of doing that every year, wait for 10 years to produce a new batch of 100 million pennies, right? You're not
Right.
increasing the amount, you're not doing that, but instead of losing 4 times the amount every year, it's spread out over just one batch over 10 years. And since they're good for about 30 to 40 years, they're still going to be in circulation. It's not like we're going to be losing them.
You're just making them less common. But my question though was that 3.7 number, right? We're saying it's approximately 3.7 times more than 1 cent to produce a penny.
Right.
Does that factor in the amount of pennies that are being produced? In other words, if you're producing more of them, will it cost less to produce each penny? So if you start producing less of them, will that 3.7 number go up a little bit?
Um, I guess it would depend on the materials, right? Because it depends on whatever order they're putting in for the materials to get whatever the cost is. Because it's not, I don't know what they're made of. I think it's what like zinc or something like that. It used to be copper, but that
Right,
got way too expensive.
right.
Um, so yeah, I don't know.
Well, it's hard for me to ask you this question because you haven't been in the US a while, but I was going to ask how often do you typically use pennies now?
Well, the thing is, Japan has 1 yen coins, which are basically like pennies as
Okay.
well. Um, and yeah, use them all the time. Because prices can be down to the one.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think I use them pretty often as well. Like when you get change for something, usually there will be a couple pennies in there because you usually don't have everything in multiples of five or or tens. So you just
right,
pennies and yeah, and then like if you have to pay for something that's 6 cents, 7 cents, whatever it is, you throw in a few pennies.
right. So if it goes away,
Hmm.
and it's not that it's going to go away, and we got to make that clear. They're just going to stop producing new ones.
Right.
So they're slowly phasing it out, but they're still going to be spendable. They're still going to hold one
It'll still
cent
be legal
value.
too. You can still use them. Yeah.
Right. Um, but if they all the prices change, that means that for the consumer, everything is going to go up. Even if it's by a cent, 2, 3 cents, it's all going to go up. I don't think anyone's going to round down their prices.
You don't
Um,
think there'll be an option of rounding or donating? Probably not, right? Because if you said no, you don't want to, then the store would have to give you more money back, and they're not going to want to do that.
Yeah, so I think that the price is gonna go. So if the candy bar was like, I don't know what candy bars are now, but let's say 51, 52 cents, it's
Wouldn't
gonna
matter.
become 55 cents now instead of
Right.
50 cents.
Right.
So everything's gonna be a little bit more expensive. And even though it's a few cents, it will add up, especially people that
Sure.
are living at the line.
Right. Right. But see, another reason why people argue for getting rid of the penny is inflation. They say not just that the penny costs too much to produce, but that doesn't make sense to have currency that small anymore because prices are going up anyway.
You know what? I think it kind of is the opposite to me because it's like if prices are going up, I think it's better to have a lower denomination so that you can be as flexible as possible on the price.
What do you mean?
I mean, if you can break it down to cents versus, having to round up, I guess it's still only a couple of cents, but
Yeah, I mean, think about countries that have prices in terms of the tens of thousands or the millions, right? You see, Asian countries do that often, right? It'll be like, a million, whatever their currency is. And that sounds crazy to us, but it might only be a couple $100 in US dollars, right?
well, yeah, that's because the value is not it's the same.
Right, right. But would they have a penny? It wouldn't make any, probably wouldn't make sense to have a denomination that small when their values are so much higher.
Well, no, their value is lower, but they have to have
Oh,
bigger
no, the value is lower as compared to the US dollar. Yes. But I'm
right.
saying that the numerical values that they're working with, the numbers.
Right. So I think, yeah, there's a couple of countries, I believe in Africa, where it's like, a billion, whatever their currency is probably worth like only a couple of dollars here,
Yeah.
a couple of dollars in the States, but in their currency, it's a billion. So yeah,
Right.
maybe a 1 cent version wouldn't make sense for them.
Right. That's what I mean. Like even in Mexico, you see commercials on TV for their Subway sandwiches, right? It'd be like, like get the new sandwich for only 550 pesos, whatever.
Yeah.
So it sounds funny to us as Americans, but when you're dealing with numbers that high, having a
Right.
lower denomination doesn't make as much sense. So I think that's the argument here in the US as we have inflation, as the values of our prices go up, it makes less sense to have pennies, right? Like the nickels is like, the smallest building block of our denomination now, of our currency.
Yeah, I think the difference there is that, our denominations are still going to be the same, right? 1, 10, 20, 50, 100, right?
Mm.
We don't have $1 billion
Yeah.
um, dollar bill or even a
Right.
$1,000 dollar bill. Um, and $2 bill. Can't leave the $2 bill out. It's always hated on. Now, what's ironic here is the idea is that phasing out the production of the penny is going to save money because it costs almost four, was it 3.7 times the amount to
Mm-hmm.
produce. However, in countries that did phase out, according to this article, in countries that did phase out their 1 unit denomination, they were they had to step up production of the 5 cent. So
Mm-hmm.
what's more likely is they're gonna have to probably step up production of nickels once they phase out pennies, and we already see that production of nickels is actually 13%, 13 times higher than the value. So it could be
Oh,
losing
hold on a
more
second.
money.
Is it 13 times higher than the value of the nickel, or is
Yes.
it 13 times the penny?
No, the nickel.
Does that much to produce one nickel?
Yes. So the nickel costs 13.8 cents to produce one.
Okay, so that's not 13 times the nickel. That's not
Oh
13.
yeah.
You know what I mean? That would be 13
Right,
times.
right, right. So it costs 13 cents to
Yeah.
produce one. So we're looking at
Almost three
what is
times
that?
as much.
Like
Almost three times as much.
almost what? Yeah. So it's about 7 cents-ish, seven some cents to produce one nickel. And if they're gonna have to step up production when if the penny is phased out, then it means they could potentially any savings that they're gonna get from phasing out the penny is going to be nil, or it's gonna cost
Right.
more.
Does that mean the nickel gets phased out next?
That's another question. I don't know if anyone's pushing to phase out the nickel.
Would it make sense? This is just a crazy hypothetical. Would it make sense to just get rid of change altogether and have everything just in terms of dollars?
No, that would suck. Everything would just go up by $1.
Would it be easier though? You would have to carry around change anymore.
Oh, then I mean that's the same argument and say, well, just use a card and you don't have to carry around anything but one thing. And then you know what? Forget the cards. You've got a phone, you've got a watch, you've got a chip in your hand. Like,
Yeah, it's just it's funny because change does seem increasingly antiquated, right? The idea of change, right? And you would hear stories about your grandparents buying everything with a nickel or a quarter and living their life lavishly, right? with a 50 cent piece or whatever. But now it's like, it's change. It's not something you're really going out there and buying stuff with, right? For the most part, it's change. So
well, listen, I'll say this.
it's not, I mean,
Anyone,
like we don't think of it as something you're using to buy products with anymore. You're thinking of it as the remainder that when you get your money back, there's something left over.
let me say this. Anyone who feels like their change is a burden on them, please send it to me.
Oh
I
yeah.
will I'll take that burden off of you.
You can be rolling quarters in your spare time and take them to the bank.
Yeah, all of it. Just send it all over to me.
All right.
Um,
Well, let's put
so,
the out. Let's see what the people think.
all right.
So we want to know your thoughts on this one. The poll question of the week is: do you agree with the plan to phase out the US penny?
I suppose they could change the material it's made of to bring the cost
True.
down.
True.
Like I don't know what the material is made of in Japan,
Mhm.
but it's definitely not as heavy as the penny. It's
Is that
very,
why?
very light.
Is that why some countries have holes in their coins to save money
Um, I don't know. I think it potentially could be, but it could also be
for weight?
from, traditional.
Mhm. I was going to say
Um,
Canada phased out the penny, right? How did that go?
I'm sorry.
Didn't Canada already phase out the penny? How did it go there?
Did they?
I think I heard that.
Well, let's see if Canada phased out the penny.
Go to the Google machine.
We're using, oh, I was going to say, according to, I was in the wrong thing. I was going to use Perplexity,
Hmm.
but according to ChatGPT, the search,
Oh,
let me go to Perplexity because it's a search engine. Um,
yeah. Give us real sources, not made up AI sources.
well, Perplexity is also
AI, but it's supposed to cite actual sources, right? That you
right,
can
it does.
verify.
So yes, it did phase out the penny in May 2012. They stopped
Oh,
producing pennies uh, in 2013 because of the production costs.
mhm.
Um, let's see, it's no longer being circulated. Um, let's see. So they save about 11 million per year by eliminating the penny. Environmental benefits, minimal inflation impact. So cash transactions are now rounded to the nearest 5 cents, but studies found the inflationary effect to be small or non-existent. Um,
So when they say round to the nearest 5 cents, does that mean always round up? Or I guess it could round down if you're only a few cents in, I
I
guess.
think it's going to
And
depend
12 becomes
on
10,
it's going to depend on the place, right? Like if you're a business owner, most likely business owners are going to round up.
unless there's a law. Maybe there's a law saying you can't do that.
Right.
They could also start playing with the prices to help them.
So here's the thing. It said there was a 2017 study that found grocery store rounding resulted in a minimal round tax of about 3.27 million per year per
Round
uh,
tax.
from consumers to vendors, which averaged about $157 in extra revenue per grocery store.
A round tax. That's what they're calling it, a round tax. That's the side effect.
It's a quote round tax.
Okay, but that's the thing, right? It becomes something you have
Right,
to pay now, basically, right? It's more sales tax.
right. So so $157 in extra revenue per grocery store, which was negligible for individual shoppers. So they're saying negligible
Mhm.
increase for individual shoppers. So it looks like it was carried off successfully. Their 1 cent or 1 unit. I don't know if they call it. Do they call it a penny also? I guess they do. Their 1 penny is still in circulation, but they just haven't produced them in 10 years, 12 years.
Yeah, and listen, I guess they can always decide to make more if they need to later, right?
You're right, absolutely. So, according to this, it looks like it was successful. I think it would just be for people used to it, it would just be like a very strange thing to know. Even though if the Treasury stopped producing pennies, no one would really know the difference immediately,
Not immediately.
because they're still in circulation.
Right.
The prices would be the only thing that would be an indicator that they're
Oh,
no longer producing it.
yeah, and that's the thing. So in Canada, you said they stopped circulating them, but they also went to this quote unquote round tag system where everything is rounded in the stores. And so that suggests that it isn't just a matter of no longer producing them, but the whole
Right,
system is changing, right? Such that you're not even
right.
really using them in stores as much, right? They're rounding everything. So even though they're still in circulation, right? I believe in Canada they're still in circulation. They're still not really
Yeah,
using them. The stores are rounding.
right.
So
So yeah, um, it did. I think it will be a growing pain. It would take a little getting used to.
yeah. Do you? I mean, you might be an anomaly because you may be more of a cash person. But I was going to ask: do you find yourself still using cash often, or do you mostly pay with a card now or your phone?
You know what? So Japan is a cash-based society
Mm-hmm.
primarily. So people largely still carry cash. People still on Friday, because in some places the ATMs are closed on the weekends. So people will go and to the bank and take out or ATM and take out cash on Friday to go get through the weekend. Um,
Now, why
and
is that? Why won't they let you into the bank to get your ATM machine on the weekend?
because it's Japan and some things are still stuck in the 50s. I don't know.
Okay.
But and it's probably some kind of process, customer service, a fee. I don't know what the reason is. So a lot of places still pay with cash. However, there has been recently um, more options to pay digitally. So they have like prepaid cards that people tend to use. Things like paying with your phone, like Apple Pay, has started to slowly creep up around in space. And for me personally, I pay more with my card now. Like for the first probably 10 years of here or more, like I hardly used my credit card at all because one, places didn't really accept them as much, and it was just cash.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I went back to the States on the not the last trip before, and started using Apple Pay, I'm just like, Jesus Christ, this is freaking amazing. I came back here, and then everywhere it was possible, like that's what I do now. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah,
It's easier for me to use my card because I can keep track of my expenses easier that way, right? As opposed to
right,
trying to collect receipts and keep a record or something of cash
right,
expenses. Especially when I do my taxes at the end of the year, it's really convenient to be able to know what my business expenses were. So I want those all on my card, right?
right. Absolutely. And then there can be some benefits because some cards will have like cash back or they'll have points that you can accrue to use on other things. So there can be some benefits to it. At the same time, I don't walk around without any cash in my pocket. There has to
Mm,
be, I need to have some cash.
okay.
Yeah.
And you don't carry US currency, right? Do many places there take US currency or it's mostly
No,
Japanese?
no one takes your, no, no,
No one
it's
does.
only yen. Yeah.
Okay. No,
I
because
don't
there are
care.
some places, I guess maybe more tourist areas where I've seen they'll take US dollars.
Not
Oh, about
here.
Japan. Okay. I'm just saying
Yeah,
some
not here.
places I've seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
So,
in Mexico, they definitely do.
right.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. So that is interesting. We've been speaking about Japan a bit because you live there. I wanted to take a look at this bag. I haven't opened up anything. I went to this place called Japan Village, right? Now you said you never heard of it because it's relatively new. I was looking it up.
Okay.
This is part of a complex called Industry City in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. And 2013 is really when they started developing this.
Okay.
These are old warehouses that they turned into retail, right? Made it like a mall. They're really bigger than that. It's several warehouses. You can walk from warehouse to warehouse. There are restaurants, bars, stores, and there's different themes. Like, so a big section of it is called Japan Village, and it had several Japanese style businesses. Um, I did actually want to have a discussion about this in the context of development, right? Because there actually has been controversy over this. For years, the developers were trying to rezone the land so that they could build out this industry city to the magnitude that they envisioned it, right? And only
Hmm.
really materialized in recent years. Like I said, it started in 2013, but there was a fight over the rezoning to build it out the way they wanted it. Really, post COVID, it's become what it's become. But the controversy for all those years was about gentrification. And the council member at the time, Carlos Menchaca, was against the project, against the rezoning, because of gentrification concerns. But then you had the Amazon deal that was killed here in New York City, right? And there was a big debate about that as well, about what kind of message are we sending the world and what are we doing to ourselves in terms of economic development and business, right? Growing
Hmm.
industry in our city. So this project, this industry city project, was happening or being planned, being discussed and debated in that same context. And the year after Amazon was killed, this was coming up for a vote, right? And the city council was talking about it and having hearings on it and, taking votes and everything. So it didn't get its rezoning right away. It eventually got to where it needed to be. And now we've got this campus, like I said, it's in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, called Industry City, and it does seem like it's thriving. Right now, I don't know what kind of effects it had on gentrification, if any. Right, that was a concern, but I think it's a valid discussion to talk about. How do we balance legitimate concerns about gentrification, right? About preserving the character of a neighborhood, making sure people aren't priced out of their own homes, against the need to spur economic development, right? I mean, New York City can't be the city that is anti-development, anti-business, right? Anti-financial growth. You do need to be able to bring money in and have economic prosperity here, right? And so it could be a difficult line to walk, I guess, at times, but I do like projects like this. I just want to see that they're done in a way that's sensitive to these other concerns.
Right. Yeah. And that's definitely something that is a line that needs to be walked. And the problem is usually when you have things like development that comes in, it's usually outside forces coming
Mm-hmm.
in and taking the value from whatever the neighborhood is instead of giving that opportunity to inside the community already to build itself up.
That's why I like to see local hiring attached to these projects, and making sure they're properly unionized, making sure that the people who are already there, who live there and work there, can enjoy the benefits of the project, as opposed to, like you said, outside forces coming in and taking over to the point where those who were there can no longer even afford to be there.
Right. Absolutely. And that's the real big issue. And the hiring needs to be, listen, the hiring needs to be something that's livable. Because if you got a project like this that comes into a neighborhood that is so-called underdeveloped, they come in, develop, put this pristine, new, amazing complex in there. Everything's going to go up. Property values, rents, all of that is going to increase. And so that means the people who are living there, if they're not getting livable wages out of this, are going to be priced out, even if they're offered jobs. They're going to have to move out of the neighborhood. So that's
Right.
an issue.
Yeah.
So you did have a haul though. Let's see your
Yeah.
haul.
Let's take a look at this. I purposely didn't open any of these. So there is a
So you just said put stuff
supermarket.
in the bag. You don't know what you put in your bag?
No, no, there's a supermarket It's called Sunrise Mart. It's part of this Japan Village, and
Okay.
I just walked around the store and whatever looked interesting, I'm doing a bag. I was looking for spicy snacks, but also just things that seemed interesting, right? Out of the ordinary, but I wanted to check them out because they just were so curious. Some honestly, there's probably one or two things in here that looked so bad I couldn't not get them. Right? Like they look so terrible, I had to try them.
They looked so terrible. You had to
But
try
we'll
them.
see. We'll see. That might be like one, maybe two things in here. So, so
Interesting.
I want to know if these are legitimate products that you've seen in Japan.
Okay.
Have you seen
Okay.
this? Is
What do we
Karamucho
got?
corn snacks, hot chili.
Yes, Caramucho.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Caramucho, there are lots of snacks here with that. I don't know if I've seen that exact one, but they
Mhm.
definitely have the Caramucho. I've had
Okay.
those.
Okay.
Probably not going to be hot from what you're expecting from US type snacks.
Oh, that's interesting. So you think these snacks are going to be less spicy than US versions?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Even like people who complain about like hot Cheetos, they come to Japan
Mhm.
and they're kind of reduced heat compared to the ones you get in the States.
That is surprising because when I go to restaurants here in the US, they tend to have less spice than the authentic cuisine. And they think
Well,
that Americans can't handle the spice.
well, Japan isn't doesn't have a lot of spicy foods in their
Yes, that
cuisine.
yes.
Like
Yeah.
if you go to Korean food, they have more
Right.
spice.
Right. Like the kimchi.
Maybe some Chinese foods, Thai foods, but
Yeah.
Japan, not
Yeah.
so much.
Not so much. Okay. So
Yeah,
that's interesting. So you think the Japanese version of spice is actually less intense than the US version of spice?
I think so.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So check this out. This is cinema popcorn, but it's hot, spicy, artificially hot chicken flavored. Now you see, we're on the line here of things that sound so disgusting. I had to try it. Chicken
That's
flavored popcorn.
yeah, I haven't seen that.
Okay.
I would not be surprised. Japan
Right.
has some weird combinations, so
Right. Right. Again, it's got the hot peppers on it. It says hot, spicy. Now we're gonna see. I'm gonna have to report back next week how spicy the stuff really was.
right.
Certain
I
things you
don't think you're gonna find anything spicy. Remember
really,
the Korean ramen that you had at my place?
yes.
I don't think you're gonna find anything as spicy as that.
Okay. I wouldn't expect it to be that hot.
Yeah.
Again, okay. See, you know what I mean now when I say like sounds so crazy. I had to try it. Like you don't see this in the States, right? So it's just some of it is just morbid curiosity.
Right.
This is actually don't know. Looks like maybe potato chips, but it's beef flavored.
Yeah, they have beef flavored potato chips out here. Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Have you tried it? I'm assuming you have not tried that.
I have not tried the beef flavored potato chips.
It says can't
Um,
stop it barbecue flavor. So we're gonna see if I can stop the barbecue flavor.
yeah.
All right.
They have they
By the
have
way,
they have butter.
all of these snacks combined under $30. Everything was like a dollar 50.
Okay.
Crispy ramen snack, spicy flavor.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
Seen this? Okay.
Uh,
So far, you think these are real Japanese products?
yeah.
Okay, here's some actual ramen. What does this say? Japanese style noodle soup curry flavor. This might be good.
What's the front of that? Okay. Yeah, there's a ton of different types of ramen out
Most of it
here.
is not spicy though. You're saying.
No, and you know what? When Japan has a lot of curry restaurants. 'Cause you have of course Indian curry, but then you also have Japanese curry. And so one of the things when you mention Indian curry to people in Japan, like, have you had Indian curry? And the first thing they say, oh no, it's too spicy. Even if they've never had it before and don't
Oh.
realize they can adjust their spice level. But
Well, did
yeah,
I
that's
tell
one of the
you?
first aversions.
Did I ever tell you I was at an Indian restaurant and I like ordering lamb vindaloo, right?
Mm,
And I like it spicy, right? And oftentimes they'll come out and they'll warn me that it's spicy, as if I don't know, right? And I said, no, I know. That's why I'm ordering it. I like spicy food. I like the taste of lamb vindaloo.
Right.
Then they ask me how spicy do I want it. They're like, do you want it mild, medium, hot, or Indian hot? You know,
Right.
and it depends on the restaurant. You know, they might have different ideas of what's Indian hot or hot, but oftentimes I'll say Indian hot or hot, or I'll get one of the hotter flavors. And there have been times when they refuse to give it to me. And it's happened to me not long ago. This happened. I ordered it spicy, and he actually looked at first. So it's like, why do you ask? Right? They ask how spicy you want it. I'm like, make it spicy. The guy
Right.
looked at me and he was like, no, you take medium. You gotta take medium. And then he brought it out, and it wasn't spicy at all. I'm like, and then he asked for it, and he's and they have like a snicker, right? Like how's that vindaloo, sir? I'm like, it's not spicy. I wanted it. They're like, it's not spicy. They couldn't believe that it wasn't spicy. I'm like, no, it's not. I wanted it to be more spicy. But they wouldn't give it to me spicy, you know. And I have another theory too. I have a theory that when you're at a table with a bunch of people and one of them says no spice, they take that into account when they make everyone's food. And so if I say I want it spicy, but I'm with a bunch of people who say they don't like spice, especially if they think we're in the same family or something like that, they're going to think my definition of spicy is not their definition of spicy because I'm surrounded by people who don't do spice. And so they're going to be like, all right, yeah, yeah, sure. Like, I mean, maybe to put like a pinch more than the other people at the table. That's my theory anyway.
Okay, okay. Okay. I can see that.
All right. So this is interesting. And now, again, curiosity, right? It's called Every
Mhm.
Burger Chocolatey Cookies. These apparently are chocolate cookies that, for some reason, are shaped like hamburgers.
Yeah, that makes sense. For
Why does that
Japan.
make sense?
For Japan, it makes sense.
What is the theory? What is the philosophy behind the hamburger cookies?
It's a cute character.
Okay.
I don't Japan, that's all I can say. That's all I
See,
can
normally,
listen.
I think, see, and yeah, you're right. Like if I were to see this on the shelf in a regular store in the US, right? Stop and Shop or something, I would think it was disgusting, right? I'm like, why are you giving me a chocolate cookie that's shaped like a hamburger? But when you're in the Japanese supermarket, I guess it's on brand next to everything else on the shelf, and you're like,
Right.
I gotta just check this out, right? I'm curious now, and I'm sure it's
Right.
like chocolate, not like a hamburger, but to us as Americans, we're being reminded of hamburgers while we're eating the chocolate, and something is not right about that.
Right. Listen, this is the country that has mayonnaise corn pizza. Like
Mayonnaise corn pizza.
yes.
All right, we're getting down to the last two food items and a drink here, which we're going to try. I might
Mm,
need to help with one of these. So this one here, I think, is the perfect example of so disgusting I had to try it. Although I don't know if I'm going to be able to eat the whole bag of this.
uh-oh.
But come on, take a look at this. Can you see what this is?
I can't read the it's barbecue flavor. It looks like that's a shrimp. No.
Yes,
Yeah, shrimp, but what is a
it's not barbecue.
it
Uh,
says barbecue on the side, doesn't it?
does it? Oh, it does say barbecue. I didn't even see that. No, but it says shrimp crackers, and this is wonderful Indonesia. So this might actually be an Indonesian product, but
Yeah, that doesn't
shrimp crackers. They're shrimp
yeah,
flavored crackers.
you might be fine with that. I don't know if you eat shrimp or not.
You know what? I eat shrimp. I'm not the biggest fan of it though. I don't go out of my way to eat it usually, but
Right.
like I don't mind. I don't know. It just depends on the setting. Like I don't mind fried shrimp, or I guess sometimes cocktail sauce shrimp, cocktail hour, but it's not like my favorite thing.
Right, right. You might be fine with that.
Again, it just seems so weird to an American. We wouldn't ever see something like this on our shelves.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, there's shrimp flavored everything over here.
I never
So
saw
it's
shrimp crackers. That's
yeah, oh, tons of
odd.
shrimp crackers.
You've seen shrimp crackers?
Yeah, absolutely, sure.
Oh, okay. This is a development. Where have you seen them?
I mean over here.
You've seen shrimp crackers in Japan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it's a thing. That's why
Oh
it's
yeah.
okay. Do you know people who eat them? I'm sure you don't eat them.
No, I don't eat. I've never tried them.
I mean, okay, so you've just seen them on the shelf.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll report back next week on some of this stuff. Now, this one, I don't think this has any English writing on it at all, aside from premium. So I actually don't know what it is. But it looks
You
like
just
it might
like the
be,
package and said, "Hey, I'm just gonna try that."
yeah, because it's very green. It looks like it might be lime on the side here, but also looks like peppers. Can you translate this for me? I think it might be chips of
Uh,
something.
what is this? It says it's potato chips. Um, I'm trying to see yuzu kosho. So this is a yuzu is a type of citrus fruit.
Mm-hmm.
And kosho is black pepper. So it's kind of
Mm.
a it's gonna be like a citrus black pepper. Citrus fruit almost with a similar to a lemony flavor, but not the same. So it's gonna be
It
that
looks
kind
like
of
a lime.
citrus.
It looks like a
So
lime.
yeah, so it's gonna be kind of like a lime pepper type of flavor. That'd probably be pretty good.
That sounds pretty good. Okay, here's the drink that I picked up. It's sake jelly shot mixed berry,
What the heck?
and apparently it packs a punch. All right, it's 30 proof,
Okay, okay.
product of Japan. I have no idea. I'm assuming it's just like a raspberry kind of sake jello shot. It says jelly shot, but like a raspberry jelly sake.
It's probably, yeah.
All right, should we try it right now?
Go for it.
It's called Izeko Sake Jelly Shot Mixed Berry.
Do you like sake?
Not really.
Well, yeah, that might be an issue then.
But with the jelly shot, let's see. Okay, it's sweet
Sure. I could
but strong.
imagine.
It's sweet but strong. You know what? Kind of tastes like a strong vodka cranberry kind of drink, but more berry, like a vodka berry kind of thing.
Mm,
Mm, something just happened. Okay, this was interesting.
the jelly?
The jelly. There's actual jelly in here. On my
Yeah.
second sip, I got a taste of it. Like not just a taste of the jelly, but the texture of the jelly. Like actual, I didn't realize that. I thought it was gonna be jelly flavored. There's actual jelly in here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, you should have warned me. You knew.
I figured you knew there'd be jelly in it.
No, I thought it would just be
Jelly jelly doesn't have a flavor on its own.
flavored. I just figured it was like, berry jelly flavor. I don't know.
Yeah. So it's probably berry jelly and sake mixed or something like that.
Yes. And it's interesting because you have to drink this and also eat this.
Yes. Yeah, they like jelly things over here.
Okay. It's not bad. It's not bad.
Your face tells a completely different story.
I was surprised. I was surprised. I'm like, what is
Yeah,
this?
but even now your face tells a different story.
Really?
You're like it's not bad. It's not bad.
I'm just not used to the texture of actual jelly coming. It's like an afterthought too. The first sip
Right,
was the drink. I was like, okay,
right.
it's like kind of on the strong side for my liking, but fruity, not bad. I went to take a second sip and I just got a mouthful of jelly.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, I'm excited to try all the stuff now.
I think you'll be fine with most of that there. I don't think it's gonna be anything that's gonna be displeasing to you.
Okay. Even the shrimp crackers?
I think you'll be fine. I mean, I don't know. Like you said, you don't really rock with shrimp like that, but I can't imagine it's gonna be like tasting like you biting into a shrimp. You know what I mean?
Might have
I-
like a hint of shrimp.
Maybe
I don't know.
something like that, and probably the rest to be like a salt type of
Here's
flavor or
my
something.
question. Do I have it here? Yeah. Why does it have to look like this though?
Why? What do you mean?
Look at the way the shrimp looks on that bag.
It looks like a real shrimp. What do you
Yeah,
mean?
it doesn't look appetizing though.
Well, real shrimp doesn't look appetizing if you ever looked at it.
Right. That's why I wouldn't put it on the bag looking like that. I would make it look
But you
more
would still
appealing.
eat it. It doesn't look appetizing, but you'd still eat it.
Yeah, because look at how it's presented here. Usually when you eat it, it's prepared, right? So it doesn't look like it actually looks in the ocean.
Hey, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I think you'll be all right with it.
So open one of these bags.
I think you should go for the shrimp. That's what you should do.
You go for the shrimp.
I think you should go for the shrimp.
Tell me in the chat right now, people watching, what should we go for?
Go for the shrimp, since that's the one you're most concerned about.
I'm scared.
Nah, you'll be
You know
fine.
why? Kind of
You'll
looks
be
like
fine.
it kind of looks like you're gonna open this up and there's gonna be one of these in here, like coming at you.
Nah, they'll be all right. It's gonna look like what's in
Kind
the
of like
bowl on the
kind of like
picture.
how you have like the worm in a tequila bottle. I feel like there's gonna be an actual live shrimp in here trying to bite me.
Nah, nah, it'll be fine.
Might be some
And then
crackers.
you'll have the jelly to protect you inside there. I can't believe it's gonna be. I can't imagine it's gonna be that bad to you.
Pop this bag, I think, 'cause it's not easy to open. Like one of those rip-ons.
Right, like
That's a
it's not
Japanese thing too. If they're hard to open, as compared to U.S. chips. U.S. chips, you just rip it right open.
right. Like it's there's a lot like that. And I think even in the States they've made it a little bit more difficult to open. People have complained about that. So it's not, it's not a really weird thing because it's like it seems to have happened
Listen,
across the board.
I haven't experienced this in the U.S. yet.
Yeah.
Interesting. No, oh my goodness, it doesn't smell good. It's a very strong shrimpy smell.
Well, I mean, they are shrimp flavored.
You said it would be a hint of shrimp.
I'm
Not a
just
hint.
imagining.
I'm actually looking for the shrimp in his bag. I feel like there's one hiding. He's gonna poke his face out. And also the shape of it. Look at this.
It looks
Probably
like a
can't see
normal.
it that well on the camera. It looks kind of weird.
Eh,
It looks kind of like
you're gonna psych yourself up and make yourself hate it even before you taste it.
it looks like a communion host a little bit. All right,
What? A communion what?
host like the
The
cracker.
communion wafer thing?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. It smells more shrimpy than it tastes.
Okay.
You're right. When you eat it, you don't really taste the shrimp as much, but you smell a lot of it.
Yeah, I would avoid smelling it then.
It's not that bad. But who wants to put shrimp with crackers? That's the thing. Like, who came up with this?
Seafood cultures?
I can't believe I'm washing down my shrimp crackers with sake jelly shot berry mix.
Hey man, listen, it's a whole new era.
A whole new world. Is there
Yeah,
actually shrimp in
when you
here? There
come
must
out
be.
when you come out to Japan, I think the one thing that's probably gonna upset you the most, and I'm gonna take you to get the Neapolitan spaghetti.
What's that?
It's spaghetti with tomato sauce and ketchup.
No, nah. We're not doing that. That's not Neapolitan. That's an insult. I'm Neapolitan. I don't call
That's
something.
Neapolitan flavor is in Japan
Listen,
for spaghetti is ketchup and pasta sauce. That's the sauce.
you go to Naples, you're not getting that.
I'm just saying. So,
I need more sake after that. All right.
true, true.
So before we wrap up, I want to talk about my recent trip to the Queens Defenders facilities, and in particular, the state of the art recording studio that was
Mm,
built. Now, as you may know, I recently joined the board of directors of Queens Defenders, and so I wanted to see the facilities with my own eyes. And this studio, right on Jamaica Avenue, took a year and a half to build, believe it or not.
mm,
And on my vlog coming out, you'll see the studio, right? It should be up
mm,
this week. But it's really state of the art. And the way it was explained to me, it's got the equipment there to do movie scores, all kinds of content creation, right? Production,
nice.
of all sorts. Um, the goal is to teach skills to at-risk youth, right? Now, the lore of this might be the studio because people think of it in terms of they want to be a rapper or a singer or whatever. But once they
Hmm.
get in, right, they quickly learn. And as an engineer, shout out to Paul who works there, and he can actually teach people how to use all of the equipment. You quickly see, obviously, how involved a real recording studio is, and there are so many
Hmm.
skills you can learn beyond just being a vocalist, right? Beyond just even
Sure.
producing music, right? There's the mixing, there's the engineering, there's all kinds of stuff there going on. And there's even life lessons to be learned. And this guy, Paul, the engineer, was telling me about that. He'll be sitting with these kids who are coming into the studio to learn how to use the studio, and they'll start having life discussions and they'll start learning, for example, the virtue of patience, right? You're there trying to produce an artist or engineer for an artist. Oftentimes, there's frustration, there's all kinds of stuff. You have to be patient enough to be able to help guide them through that process. And so there's a lot that goes on in a facility like this. And it really is beautiful to see. I'm really happy to be a part of this organization and have access to this, right? And be able to help kids, really, young people, uh, learn something useful. Malik Sanders is a friend of ours. He was there. He works at Queens Defenders. He was saying similar that sure, there's value in trying to be a rapper or a singer or whatever, but there's also value in some of the other skills that you can learn there, right? And again, it goes even beyond just music or content creation. It's life, right? But this is a way to help get people off of the streets and doing something productive, learning useful skills that they can then take out into the real world.
Right. Yeah, it sounds awesome.
Yeah, it really is. When you see the footage that I took, I think you'll be impressed as well. And it's funny,
Hmm.
they've got a sign. I was thinking about this. They've got a sign on the wall. You'll see it in my video of the studio rules. The second rule is no gang violence. And
Hmm.
that confused me for a second. I was asking them, when you say no gang violence, do you mean you can't break out into a gang fight in the studio, or you can't have that kind of content in your music or whatever you're producing there? And they said, well, both, but it's really about the content. They don't want the content. And, you know, a lot of these kids are in the system and they don't want anything even that prosecutors could use against them in a court case, right? They don't want this is the law firm, right? That's defending them, that's helping them through their struggles. They don't want to help them create content that's going to be used against them later on. And we've talked about on Nuance how prosecutors have used song lyrics to help them with their case, right? To
Sure.
try to demonstrate someone is really as violent as they claim or whatever. So
Sure.
it got me thinking about that though. And they had other rules in there also, like I think they said no foul language and make sure you can show these songs to adults. And I started wondering, is that going too far even? I mean, do you want to be suppressing artistic expression to that degree? I understand the use of it generally, like we said. You don't want to get these kids in further trouble than they're in,
Right.
but it is art. Kind of like how we talked about before with the tension, right, between the gentrification and the development. It's like you want to be able to allow people to express themselves fully and completely without putting limits on it, but you also want to protect them. And I guess they don't have a right to say whatever they want in your studio because you're giving them, it's not a right to be there, it's a privilege. You're giving them access to use it. And so you can set rules,
Right.
limitations on it. But do you want
Yeah.
to be doing that? I guess the question is, how much do you want to be restricting or stifling people's expression?
I mean, I guess it's like you said, it's up to that organization, really. I see where I see what your point of view on that is, and where would that end? Like, what if it was a different thing instead of foul language? What if you're not allowed to say anything that questions the government or something like that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, where's your limit on curbing the output?
Right, right. And I come from the school of thought that says good art, and really hip hop in particular, is supposed to be a little edgy. It's supposed to be a little controversial. It's supposed to make you a little uncomfortable, right? And so do we want to be sanitizing it to an extreme degree?
Yeah, on the other hand, though, um, I think without using, like I said, they're not allowing certain language. If you're not allowing that language to be used, whoever's in the studio and recording these lyrics have to be a little bit more creative because we've seen a lot in hip hop, especially that people will use, curse words as a crutch, basically. They'll be in almost every line,
Mhm.
um, instead of looking for alternatives. And of
Right.
course,
And
there's
so I do,
impact to
listen,
it.
and I do like pushing people to be better artists, be more
Yeah,
creative, as you put it, right? And you can imagine one of the main problems I heard at the studio in terms of the output so far, right, has been what you see many times in music. People
right,
come oftentimes in a group. It'll be like a group activity, right? They'll bring their all their boys or whatever, and it'll be like, almost like a party atmosphere. There's a lot of excitement in creating something or starting to create something, right? Let's throw on a
right,
beat, all write some rhymes and sing and do whatever. And maybe they'll record a little bit. They'll have to leave for whatever reason, right? Their time in the studio is up that day. And
right,
that never gets finished. So next time they come, they want to start something new all over again, and nothing ever gets done.
right.
That happens a lot. I'm sure you've experienced that as well, right? Like you'll maybe try to get into a regular recording rhythm with somebody, and you work on something one day. The next time you go back, for whatever reason, people don't tend to want to finish what you started last time. They want to start something new and then never finish anything. I think there's like an adrenaline that people get from
Sure.
starting a new project and maybe finishing
Yeah.
something that you already did, that you worked on last week. It doesn't seem as fun, right? Like it's just like that's just like more like work maybe to people. But
Right.
obviously, if you actually want to have finished product, you can't operate that way.
I mean, I've probably got like 100 songs that are half finished
Right.
because beats or songs that, yeah, the initial excitement was like amazing, and then like, going
Uh-huh.
back to do the refining and
Right.
the
Right.
the editing and the
You know what?
re-recording, it's like
And there is some value in that too, because sometimes you have an idea that you decide isn't worth seeing through to its end, and
that
that's fine.
too.
That's part of the creative process too, right? Knowing when it's time to move on to something else. The problem is when you're always doing that and you can never finish what you start, right?
Right.
Then you have an issue. And yeah, so that was one of the, I was only there for that one day so far, but that was kind of my input. Like, if you're going to help people develop these skills in the studio, why don't you push them in a direction like that, right? Not just making it about the party of starting a new song every time you come, but let's see if you can finish something. See
Right.
and that includes because then you have to put the other skills into use as well, right? That's the engineering, that's the producing, that's all those refinements you have to make, right? It isn't just a matter
Right.
of having fun on the microphone. So
Yeah. Yeah, because
I
if you're
think
just starting songs and not finishing it, there's a part of the process that is being neglected.
right, right, very important part, probably the most important part.
Yeah, the
So
mixing part, the finalizing of the mixes and the
yeah,
balance, and like
yeah.
that's never getting done because
And
you know,
here's an important life lesson out of there as well. It's not always about what you're creating; it's about what you're saving versus what you're deleting,
right,
right? And so you can have the artistic vision, right, or the genesis of something, but the real talent, the real skill, I think that you want to learn is knowing what to keep and what to cut, right?
right.
And so that will get lost if you're always just starting something new but never finishing it. It's like it's
So
like
they get
it's like never seeing something through in your real world, right? Like
right,
you're gonna go out, I don't know, you want to learn a skill so you can get a job or start a business, but you never actually take it to that step. You just keep starting new skills or something. It's like
right.
you're never actually following up in life.
So
So that's
they
where the
get
life skill comes in. Also, this is a very specific thing that I pointed out. They
mhm.
they did something where I guess they had a contest when they kind of first opened the studio where different people made songs, whatever. But the whole thing was you had to make the song and finish it in one day. And then I think they even did a video with it. Like whoever did like the best song slash video in that whatever time frame it was would win the contest. And that's cool. But what I noticed is everyone in the video was reading their lyrics off of their phone.
Okay.
It sounded like they were reading. Right?
Wait, in the video or in the recording?
Well, no, they it was both. So they did a video of studio footage.
Oh, okay. So it's not like the music video. It's just
Well, that was their music video. They like I said, they
okay.
took one day to do it. So that they just took video of them in the studio working on the song basically. And you can
Okay.
see them on the mic reading their lyrics, but when you listen to it, it sounded like reading. They weren't able to put the emphasis in certain areas, put the emotion into it that you'd want to hear because they
Right.
didn't know their lyrics. Like they were focused on just getting the lyrics right. And I was saying, you really should push them to memorize their lyrics. That would be one of my rules. I mean, maybe that's snobby or something, but they've got these 10 rules or whatever they got on the wall now. No gang violence, no whatever. I would add a rule: no getting on the mic without having your lyrics memorized, because it sounds, it sounds like they don't know their lyrics and they're reading, and it doesn't sound as good.
That's
Um,
a little harsh.
maybe it's harsh, but what I was saying, because they were trying to say, the engineer Paul said he agreed with me generally speaking, and I think Malik was saying, yeah, he also kind of agrees, but this was in such a short time frame. He was saying that they
Yeah.
don't have time to do it. I said, fine, but you know what? There are memorization techniques that you can learn. You're talking about learning skills here. You can teach someone how to memorize their lyrics by the time that they're written. Like for me, if I write a verse, it's completely memorized by the time it's written because I'm always repeating the lines that I came up with already to try to inspire the next one. So by the time I get
Yeah,
to the whole verse,
not
it's
me.
already memorized.
Yeah, not me. I did.
That's that's also how they teach actors to learn their lines, right? They teach them start with the first line, repeat it over and over and over and over again, just that first line, and then go on to the second line. Repeat the first two over and over and over and over again. So it's like muscle memory, and that doesn't take long. Like the excuse of we only had one day to do it. If you
It
improve your
doesn't work for
memorization,
everybody though.
well, but that's a skill that you have to refine then, right? If you're lacking in that area, work on that.
I would say, because I know, listen, for me, I'll record a song, I get the lyrics down and everything, and I can listen to it 10 times over and still not have the verse memorized in my head. Um, I would say that if there's a rule that they have to at least practice
Mm-hmm.
delivering the verse. If you're gonna read it when you're doing your recording off of your paper, which is what a lot of people do and have always done. But you need to practice before. You can't just like take the pen off of the pad and then go
Like go
directly
right
into the
in.
booth.
Right. Or what you could do is do a first draft of it where you're just reading it just to get that out. Like like it's the first, like if you're drawing, right? You're just drawing
Right.
the first draft. It's not your final product. You listen to it, you learn it that way, then you go back in and do it the right way.
And you know what, that's also it's also on the producer as well. Like I don't know if it's the producer of the song is I mean that's another skill in itself. So when they go into recording, even if they're coming straight off of writing it and they go into recording, the producer should be there and say, okay, listen, say that line again, but do it like this, or
Right.
give it a little bit more emphasis here, or maybe it'll flow better this way. That's part of producing the song as well. So that's something that could be also taught.
And also, here's a challenge that I put out to people: spend some time writing. Right? Everyone
Yeah,
loves to go into the studio and create something spontaneously there. Again, I think it's the adrenaline, it's the high, it's the
sure.
idea. It's fun, right? It sounds fun. We're just going to go in with nothing and come out with something, but you don't get something great 9 times out of 10 that way, right? I would prefer, if you know you're going into the studio on Tuesday, take the weekend, take a whole week even to write something, and then you can memorize it during the week. You get there on Tuesday and you have it down by then, as opposed to just trying to write it and record it right then and there.
Yeah, I mean, everyone everyone heard Jay-Z doesn't write, and then Lil Wayne said he doesn't write,
That's so stupid. That ruined everything for a lot of people.
and then a lot of people thought that they could do that too, and it's like,
But also the idea of not writing, like this goes back to what I was saying. That's a technique I always use myself. I never said I don't write. It is writing. You're just not writing it down on paper or now typing it, let's say. But if
yeah,
you are taking the time to come up with it in your head, even, it's still writing it. You're not writing it down, but you're still
right, right,
you're not improvising it on the spot. And people got that confused.
right.
So,
So I think Lil Wayne was doing a little bit of improvising. You can hear in some of the lyrics. It
but
didn't.
Joe Budden had a lot. He said the more rappers said they didn't write down lyrics, the more it started to sound like they didn't.
Right. Absolutely.
That's a
Absolutely.
problem. And sometimes it's fun and something being spontaneous, but I
Didn't we
want
just we talked about this? There was an article about this not too long
okay.
ago. That we talked about this about rappers these
Okay, yeah,
days.
that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
But this is my challenge. And maybe some of it sounds like an elitist or a music snob or something, but this is kind of the input that I'm bringing to this whole project. I want people to put more effort into it.
Right. Sure. Maybe there should be a rule that you can't start a new song until the previous one's finished, or unless you delete that song completely.
Wait, say it again. You can't start a new song until you finish the last one.
Right. And if you decide that you want to, you don't want to do it, you get to delete it. You don't get to go home with the rough copy of it.
Yeah. Again, though, this goes back
So
to
if you're
not
gonna start something new, you got to start fresh. The old stuff is trash now,
right. It goes
or
back.
finish it.
I don't want to stifle their creative expression, so I don't want to be too rigid, but I do want to push more.
Right.
You know what I mean? I was saying this to someone earlier. Like, not everyone has to do music, or if you do, treat it with respect at least. Like, try. Don't think you can just go in there and just wing it, and you know what I mean? Like that's because at a certain point, it actually comes off disrespectful to the craft. I think.
True, true, true. All right.
All right.
Well, I think the next rule, anyone that has to, before you record, you have to like battle mic before you can get on the mic.
Listen, I wouldn't mind doing some kind of YouTube reality show, like a rhythm and flow kind of thing, but better in Jamaica, Queens, at the studio. There's
That
a lot
could be
you can do.
done. That could be a possibility,
Yeah.
you know.
All right. Well, what is the bottom line? Shrimp.
Um, the bottom line is uh, maybe things don't taste as bad as they look. I don't know. Take
Sometimes they
maybe
smell bad,
maybe
but it tastes all right.
yeah,
Can't smell the mic, unfortunately.
take some time to hone your craft, to take it seriously. It's not always fun and games all the time. It can be fun and games, but there is some element there that needs to be taken a little bit more seriously. I suppose that
It's a
could be said.
balancing act, you know,
Yeah.
and you do like to hear people having fun. That comes across.
Sure.
You
Recording can be
right.
really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and it should be. But I mean, it should also be taken seriously. I feel like that's a metaphor for life. That's, you know what I mean? When
Yeah.
they say that there are life skills here, I think a lot of these
Yeah.
lessons can be used beyond just the studio.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So go forth and record. Before we do wrap up and we give the where they can find us at, I think we could probably send out a rest in peace to Charlie Rangel,
Oh yeah.
who just passed, um, who was a long-term congressperson, and
Harlem.
trailblazer in that regard.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely. All right. Well, where can people find us?
they can find us on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, uh, as well as everywhere podcasts are available. So go to Nuance Show on these locations and take part in the conversation. Say
Yeah.
something.
As always, we thank you for joining us. We've got work to do, and we'll catch you next time.